She removes the restraints and puts a cozy on the handcuffs. Shannon asks if they'll kill her after they get the baby, but Audrey says that their rule was not to harm her. As they talk, the door of the room opens and Audrey tells her that she reminds her of her daughter. She was in the same accident with Jackson, but didn't die right away. She killed herself in the elevator in the house. Meanwhile, Henry is burying Rory in the woods, when his phone rings. It's the detective doing a follow-up with him, asking to come and see him. He tries to get some information out of her and she avoids his questions. She tells him she'll meet him at the house in an hour. Back at the room, Shannon pleads with Audrey to let her be Jackson's mom, along with them, to look after him after they die. She says she'll do whatever they want. There's a knock on the door, so Audrey gags her again and leaves, locking the door behind her, but the door unlocks by itself. Henry runs home, but the detective is there already. She's waiting for him inside Shannon's room, with Audrey handcuffed next to her. She tells him to get on his knees, as Shannon is begging for her to let her out, but the detective turns to her and calmly kills herself. Henry releases Audrey from the cuffs and they get the detective's body out of the room. Henry buries her in the same place as Rory. The next day, Audrey tries to tell him about Shannon's request, but there's a knock on the door. It's Ian, asking for the book. They show him the book and Henry tells him the story of how he got it. Audrey asks if he could read it, to which he says that it's been written in different languages and dialects, and is possibly the oldest book in the world. They ask about the invocation spell and he tells them to show him exactly what they did when they used it. When they do, he says that once the door to purgatory is opened, every ghost there will be looking for a host. He asks about the host they used and they take him to Shannon. They ask Ian if Jackson is in there and he replies that he isn't, but that he can be. They need to finish the ceremony by making a sacrifice of the mother. Ian says he can perform the ceremony, if they allow him to keep the book and give him $10,000. He will perform the ceremony the next day, but they need to put rock salt around Shannon and themselves to keep the other ghosts away. That night, both Henry and Audrey are in the room with Shannon, having put salt around the entire thing. Shannon tells Henry about her idea for the baby, but he says she can't win a moral argument with him because he already made a deal with the devil. He tells her that Audrey was the one driving the car when Jackson died, but she couldn't remember. Henry is doing all of it for her. Suddenly, the ghost of the detective walks in and kills herself all over again. Ian is in his basement, reading the book, when his mom calls him up for lunch. He angrily grabs his stuff and leaves. Then, he arrives at the house and as he walks in the bedroom, the detective appears behind him. The others aren't surprised by that anymore, saying she's been doing that all night. Ian starts right away, giving the couple instructions on what to read. The detective walks in again. He says that salt just slows them down, but a sacrifice will stop them. Ian continues with the instructions as the detective shows up again, but doesn't shoot herself this time. Him and Henry go outside and he measures where certain objects should be placed around the house. He tells Henry that he is the one that needs to kill the mother, without hesitation, because if he does hesitate, they will all die. Back in the room, Audrey is drawing a pentagram, as Shannon tries to distract her. She asks for some food and Audrey goes out to get some. Shannon breaks out from her restraints and pours water on herself, pretending she's having the baby. Audrey comes in and calls for Henry. She's getting Shannon ready as the two men come in. Ian disturbs the salt as he walks inside. He immediately starts reading from the book, as Audrey is worried if Jackson is in there and Henry keeps getting messages from the priestess of their cult. The pentagram starts shining and Ian says it's working. Henry picks up and it's the priestess telling him that Ian killed his mother and drew symbols on his house. He tells Audrey that something is wrong with Ian, but tells him to keep going. Shannon gets out of her restraints and grabs Audrey, saying she'll cut her throat if Henry doesn't undo her legs. Both Audrey and Ian tell him not to do it. But Henry still does it, then Ian kills Audrey saying a mother's a mother. He spills blood at Henry and continues the ceremony, while Shannon is trying to get out of the restraints and Audrey dies in Henry's arms. Suddenly Shannon stabs Ian and a giggling ghost comes in and grabs him, taking him away. He can be heard screaming in the other room, as Shannon tries to get out. Suddenly, the suffocating ghost rises behind her and goes toward her. Henry tells her to go and to forgive them. At that moment something starts coming out of Audrey's body and scares the other ghost. The same happens to Henry and Shannon runs away. She sees the giggling ghost and escapes, then the other two and goes to open the door, when the giant ghost appears outside. She slams the door. Meanwhile, from the dead bodies of Audrey and Henry, a creature has risen. Shannon is in the kitchen when she sees the keys, but suddenly the detective appears and walks up to her, saying she'll protect her. The creature walks out of the bedroom. Shannon comes out of the house and sees Rory there, but walks past by him. She looks up and sees Jackson in the window, being taken away the next moment. Shannon drives away, but as she's driving through the woods she sees something on the road. On a second look she notices it's a pregnant woman. She looks down and sees blood on her belly. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.